Hello, welcome back to Parkitect. Today I'm making a new scenario. This is going to be my 13th custom scenario in my list of scenarios. Today I am building the Great Wall of China with a Chinese village in the vicinity of the wall. Today's map is called Earth Dragon Valley, which is the other name of the Great Wall of China that has been called, apparently. This is the little research I did on the wall. I wanted to build the Great Wall of China because there was an RCT2 map that was made that had the Great Wall of China in it, and it was a pretty cool map that I like that you can build near around the wall, and it had what I think no money involved. You had to build like 10 coasters or something, so I kind of copied that idea too. So I just kind of pulled a lot of inspiration from that map, and I wanted to give myself a challenge of building a wall and some Chinese architecture, which I haven't done in a while. So as you can see here, I'm just planning out the simple border of the park. Some tips about making borders for a custom scenario or making a park is that you want to give it some interesting shaping to the border instead of just making a square, giant square, because the game already likes squares as it is, and it is a square-based game. So making interesting like ways of different, I don't know, interesting shapes, or big small ones, or L-shaped maps to like circle maps. It's kind of what I do when I build a new custom scenario. I want to make a more interesting looking layout than a normal typical square or rectangle map. So excuse me. The idea also was to use the wall that goes through the center, goes through the map, goes like through the center, and use it as the park's border. And I thought that was a cool idea to kind of like hide it away, because one side is fence and then the other side is the Great Wall, and then there. So here I'm going to work on some of the aspects of the wall. I used the actual terrain to actually simulate the wall, because I didn't want to use pathways. I didn't want to use pathways, but I also wanted to use the natural terrain to kind of like stop you from going this far or building onto it or something. Well, you can't build on the wall. I mean, there's later things you can do, but I won't explain the goals, but maybe I will. But this is just how I'm gonna do the wall, because I looked on the actual RCT2 map, the Great Wall one, and I saw that they used the terrain as well as a way to build the wall and the scenery, and I was like, okay, that's a cool way to do it. I'm going to try that as well. So I did the same way. This is before the DLC. So I built the wall. Oh man, I finished the map about at least 2 weeks ago, and I've been fine-tuning it here and there a little bit for like the goals and stuff like that. I had a goal that was part of the new DLC, but I'm not going to do that. And also I've been thinking, like, with the expansion of the DLC and all the new scenery stuff that we have, I don't know if I want to continue making scenarios either with the DLC stuff or without. I did make one for just for goofing off and to kind of experiment with pieces. I made a new custom scenario map that's already in the workshop called Candy Cane Orchard, and I was just kind of playing with the candy props and already did that, and I was like, oh, it's cool, but it does prevent you, if you don't have the DLC, you can't play that map. And so I'm trying to think of what would be the best option. Do I stay vanilla, or do I go into doing scenarios that are based off of the DLC stuff? If you have any thoughts, leave comments in the description, or leave comments below or something, because I don't know what to do yet. But I like the DLC stuff. I have some plans for some DLC maps and some scenarios that I want to do. I have some plans for the new rides as well. But regardless, I'm going to continue talking about the wall as I'm working on one of the new towers. I already finished some of the battlements, and using the brick fences a way to kind of follow the terrain. See, the wall kind of like a dragon. It like kind of like more like follows the terrain up and down and kind of hugs the terrain, and then kind of forms to be kind of part of the area or the scenery, it kind of becomes part of the mountain. So that's kind of the idea. And it's kind of interesting because the other nickname was Earth Dragon. I like that name of it. I do want to another note is that the name of this map was already named before the new DLC came out, so it was funny when I was going through the playthrough of the new maps. One of the new maps is called Dragon Valley, and I was like, oh, that's funny. I already named my map Earth Dragon Valley, which is funny. So I'm going to keep the name. I'm not going to change it because the name does portray that it is about the wall. I didn't want to just call it the Great Wall. That's kind of like cheesy or just kind of easy to do so. So I gave it that name. But there's some cool things you'll see on this map. So just just figuring out how the tower should be built. I did some interesting techniques with the windows you'll see in a little bit. But you need to figure out where all the roofs and stuff goes. Figuring out what I want to do. I like doing this border technique with the borders because it looks like tile sometimes. I think that's a really cool way to do it. So there's tiles. If you guys want to, well, if you have Construction Anarchy, then able to do it. But if not, there's probably, I could try to do some other ways to do it instead of using Construction Anarchy, because I've done it before with shapes. I've done it with shapes actually. Shapes are a good way to go because they're already free grid already, but it just takes a long time to do so. Here I'm trying out some different corner stuff for the wall that didn't work out. Changing up some detailing, but I built one tower and then I decided then I copied it on blueprints and then made like, I think 7 to 8 more towers. The wall goes pretty far. I don't know how big this map is. I think it's like 120 by 120 is how big the map is. But regardless, so with the new windows kind of pushed in because Construction Anarchy, I have to put in a filler. So using shapes is the best way to fill it in, and it kind of matches the same way. I love that the game has no texture sometimes, so doing this kind of hides it. And it kind of just shows off that you can do things like this. Only because of Construction Anarchy kind of just messes with the wall. But you can do that too with if you're trying to make a building smaller or not with shapes. So making the shape not at one side, it can be at 0.50 or 0.75 on a square, it looks smaller. You can make towers or something that looks smaller or a little bit more interesting than matching the square of the grid of the map, stuff like that. So here just putting on some lanterns to give it some life. I had to redo this roof a couple times, but I wanted to make it pointed like an actual Chinese architecture roof. I did some research looking through how their roofing is. Chinese and Japanese architecture are very, very similar. So it was kind of confusing at how to determine what I was trying to go for and trying to simulate to you guys that this is a Chinese architecture or the Chinese wall. And so that was kind of a difficult thing, but I think I executed it quite well. I think I'm pretty happy with the design of this map so far and how it turns out, and you'll see some cinematic shots in the later of the video of just the wall and how big it is. Yeah, I just think this is it was a cool way to do it. And over to working actually on the battlements. Now, originally I was just going to leave the walls plain as were, but looking at pictures of the wall, they have those little square tops on top of the battlements where archers can duck behind and shoot between. So I knew I needed to put those in. So I just experimented with some shaping and ways to kind of, I don't know, give it some more structure. And doing this type of grid looking kind of looked weird and didn't really look proper, so I had to get rid of that. And I had to double up on the medieval fences here. Now the medieval fences are the only fences. No, not all fences do it. Depending on how you place them on a grid, they can either face left or right, or upward, yeah, left or right. And I had to double place the fences to give it more of a thicker look, and I had to do that on the entire wall. So it was an interesting thing that happen. Well, yeah, I still wanted to have the wall kind of form with the land. That's the thing of why I had to use terrain and not pathways, because pathways kind of don't look proper. So I did that, and I did some of the angle parts or the stepped parts with the battlement parts, and then I did copy and paste them in blueprints, and then did that for another hour and a half. Just grunt work. Again, don't be afraid of grunt work. I know grunt work can be very, very repetitive, but it can also pay off very, very well, and that's what happened here. So on to the village. Some things you see in this shot will not be there anymore, because I did change the village a couple times. I didn't like the red sometimes. I felt like the red was too much, even though the Chinese are a very, very big fan of red, and I just felt like it wasn't... Like, it was just too cartoony, maybe. I did watch Mulan a little bit before building this map. Kind of was trying to figure out how they drew their movie and what architecture they used for it, and it worked out. So this is just a very simple house with some trimming and some wooden pillars in between the house. The house is pushed in like a little bit to kind of give it that interesting shape. It's still on one square. I could have used shapes for this. For default, but I used walls because I have it. It's kind of a habit of mine because Construction Anarchy gives you so much freedom. It's just kind of like forces you. Well, it doesn't force you. It's just kind of like you just go with it. I could try disabling Construction Anarchy and making a scenario and see how that goes. Maybe that's like a challenge I can do maybe one of these times. I don't know, something like that. Fishing up just the steps and then build one house, and I copied this 3 times, placed it on the map, and then I did some variations to those houses later on. So one goes on top of the hill here, another one will sit next to it. Yeah, see, here's the little different variation, a different rooftop or something, just to give it some different character. Just changing one little thing on a building does change it, so when it comes to building repetitive buildings, like let's say a main street or an apartment building, just change the color or like the windows or something, and it will make it different. Here I'm just trying out some like empty fields so that when you get into the map you want to start building, it kind of directs you to go this way. The map is actually quite large. There is one new goal in this map. I think it's the own how many tiles of park you need to own. I think that's part of the free. That was part of the free DLC. Part of the free update, not DLC. The free update. So I added that goal into this one because I want to try to force the player to buy land that's across the other side of the wall. Also the other interesting goal that I set for this map. I hope it works. I've done some testing, some not. You can't build higher than the wall. So I did have a building limit to how high coasters and flat rides are placed, and I hope it works. If it doesn't work, I will probably update it and tweak the map again, which is great because now we can update workshop items, which is wonderful. So I will see it work because this map should be releasing this week, because I'm recording this on Monday. This is a Monday record, yes. So it should release this week, kind of talking to future self. Release it this week. So that should happen, and if that works with the new idea of limiting build space, it could work. I did do a height limit on Brock's gold mine a while ago, but that did kind of work because you can build towers higher than the wall, or not higher than the wall, higher than the cave, and it kind of went through the cave. I need to maybe disable those rides. Note to self: disable launch ride and roto spin, maybe. Okay, so on to the next section. This is the depot building again. When building something for the depot is the downside of it being so big, but I get how this game is designed. Is they want to make the depot kind of obvious that we're doing depot stuff, or we're doing things of resupplying shops and stuff like that. So building a new thing on top of it's kind of hard. So I went for a grand manor. Maybe this is the mayor's house of this little village, or some rich farmer. I don't know. It just needed to be grand because how big the building is. I could have maybe put this underground, kind of hide it, but I kind of feel like that's sometimes cheating. I've done it before, where you hide it somewhere, or you hide it in the underground, cover it with rocks, turns into the terrain. but I wanted to give it a different style of building on this side to kind of give it some points of interest, because I feel like the wall's already 1 point of interest, the village is one, a second one, and then the depot's gonna be your third. And then I made also a gazebo slash what's it called, pagoda off to the side. I did that off screen, so you won't see any build of that, but you'll see it in the cinematic later. Just kind of keeping tabs. So just here, just doing the simple work, roof work, stuff like that. If you take note that all the roofs are off grid, because I wanted them to overhang a little bit. That's why I like Construction Anarchy. It gives those roofs more of a realistic look. Here's more of, again, with the border trick to do the tiles. If you want to do tiles in your building, if you don't have Construction Anarchy, just try shapes or something. But don't be afraid of Construction Anarchy either. It's actually a pretty cool, fine tool to use. And it's the only mod that I use personally. Everything else I don't use. Again, just fixing up all that stuff, finishing up the details, the brown, these wooden pillars for more interesting structure work. And off to working on this. Here is the entrance. I redid the entrance a couple times. This is, I think, the third time I did it. I just wanted to make it some simple thatched roof or tiled roof and just kind of like just build it from there. Nothing special about it because it doesn't need to be. It's just a simple roof. Also tried out doing maybe an enclosure, but the walls kind of like prevent me from doing much things because of how the road's already put down. So when you put down paths, you kind of still have to follow the grid formation, even though you want to do like some interesting looking buildings with inset walls or maybe a diagonal wall going through a straight wall, something like that. So kind of just had to keep it very simple. Again, it's just more repetitive work again, but it pulls off. It pulls itself off because it shows that you worked this hard to do all this repetitive work, and it builds itself together. It's okay to do that. So, also a tip when building a scenario: try to keep trees away from the edge of your park border, because there can be a chance where you place a tree and the tree's like exactly in the center of the fence, and if it's just a little bit above, beyond the fence out of your border, the tree can't be deleted. So it looks weird that this tree is just kind of sticking out of this fence. So that was before in the video. I went around, I placed the border of the park, and I went around and I deleted trees really close to the fencing so that it doesn't happen again. Some of the actual official campaign levels have that issue where there's trees in the fence and I can't delete them because they're on the other side of the border, out of your reach. Here comes the last section, or last building that I wanted to build. So some other grand building, but not as grand as the depot building. So this is more of like maybe a better, like a mini manor or something. I don't know the exact names of these buildings. I didn't do as much research as I should, but kind of was just going through Google, looking at architecture, trying something different, coming out of my comfort zone a little bit, because I normally haven't done this type of architecture before, and I felt like this is kind of fitting in what maps I've already made for my custom scenario pack. So just kind of going with the flow here, giving some different roofing look, and then again we're going to do a whole bunch of tiles, different woodwork, so a darker cherry wood maybe, kind of give it a different, so it's a little bit richer than the other houses in the village. I don't want to make the village too big, because then it kind of distracts from what the purpose of the map is, or what the purpose of the game is, to build theme parks or build an amusement park in this area. So I kind of kept it on the down low a little bit. So simple tile work again with the wonderful borders. You can also try to use the cable set from the sci-fi set, because those are free grid too. Those are good to make tiled roofs. The downside is that they can't be recolored, so you kind of have to weigh your odds. Do I want to recolor or do I not want to recolor? Because I did it once before on like an old save of mine, and it worked out pretty well, and I like how that looked with the cable system. So adding the simple details of the round cylinders at the bottom. Just simple finishings up. Not much to talk about for this map. Some of the goals, I can tell you just a little bit. I know that I want to make sure that the player builds 4 coasters, have like 1,000 guests in the park, and you can't build above the wall line or the higher than the Chinese wall. So I hope that works. If it doesn't work, I'll find out eventually. I'll find out on the workshop, and then I'll just tweak it, stuff like that. So we're closing to an end. This is just finishing up the brick wall of a brick staircase here, and the cinematic should start. So I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.